4 women staged a protest during President Jacob Zuma's address at the IEC Centre in Pretoria on Saturday. They were demonstrating in support of Kwezi, the woman who accused him of rape in 2006. Now, Zuma was acquitted of those charges. The protesters were later removed by the president's bodyguards. The 1 in 9 campaign was formed during the rape case. We have 2 of its members in studio today. It's Kwezi Mbandazayo and Mpumi Mathabela. Thanks so much for your time, ladies. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Kwezi, let's start with you. The ANC Women's League said that this protest was staged with the intention of humiliating President Jacob Zuma and not highlighting the issue of rape in the country. What do you say to that?
I think that the protest was staged to highlight the issue of rape in the country, to highlight that we still remember Kwezi, and if humiliation and shame comes to the perpetrator of that crime as a result of that, I'm not unhappy about that. I think that it is shameful to perpetrate such crimes. It is shameful that in this country we have such high statistics of sexual violence. It's very shameful that rape culture, rape and sexual violence is so normalized. It is very shameful that our state president is involved in this way. So I think humiliation is good.
Factually, President Jacob Zuma was acquitted of this charge, so it would be unfair to call him a perpetrator.
But factually, the criminal justice system continues to fail women. Factually, the criminal justice system is anti-black, anti-poor, and anti-women. Factually, the criminal justice system boasts conviction rates of rape that are less than 4%, continuously is lenient towards perpetrators of violence against women, sexual violence, is continuously has these gaps where people get away with rape and with sexual violence. So the criminal justice system is an unjust system, and at the campaign we choose to understand it as a system that does not work for us, and therefore our respect of it is limited.
All right, Mpumi, let's bring you in. One of the protesters spoke to us on air on Saturday after the incident, and she said that an acquittal does not mean it didn't happen. What do women in South Africa face in terms of their cases being thrown out of court? How do they cope thereafter? And what's happened to Kwezi now? We know she's had to leave the country.
I think I can't speak for Kwezi herself. If Kwezi wanted to speak to the media, she would definitely come out and speak to the media. But I can definitely speak about the cases that we have experienced in our offices, or that we come across, that women, like you've mentioned, that some of the cases are thrown out, some of the cases get dropped off the court roll. Women face secondary victimization within the court system and other systems before, during, and after their trials. So it's very to think of the criminal justice system as a system that actually protects women is very flawed, and we need to highlight that. And what the 4 women that they did on Saturday was exactly that, to highlight the failures of the criminal justice system and to say, if the system continues to fail us, we will name and shame our perpetrators, and that is truly in our right to be able to do so.
But what does it say about the legal system not doing its job, basically? Are you saying that there are many magistrates and judges across the country who don't know what they're doing because they, for one, drop cases, they dismiss cases, they acquit so-called or alleged perpetrators? Don't we have a justice system in place to make sure that somebody is, innocent until proven guilty? In this case, President Jacob Zuma was found to be innocent.
We have a system in place that does work on the presumption of innocence, but the system also exists within a patriarchal context. It exists within set attitudes, belief systems, structures that are pro-violence. Violence exists to police women, to police all other people. So, as we've been saying, the system in and of itself is flawed. We use the system, we engage the system, we challenge the system, because in the end, it does need to ultimately work for us. In the end, we do want to see structures in place that deliver justice, structures in place that are able to respond to society and respond to how wrongs can be righted. We're not throwing it out wholesale completely, but we are saying that where we do see gaps, we could go into the technicalities of the particular case that we're talking about, of the trial that was brought against Jacob Zuma, and we could go into some of the ways in which the law was misused, or some of the ways in which the law was not interpreted properly, some of the ways in which her sexual history, Ufezeka, was used, some of the ways in which she was vilified by the court, by the officials, by the judge himself. So even within the structure that is the law, even using it properly, we still have contestation about how that case happened and how many cases like that continue to be judged and tried.
So why not raise it legally then?
I mean, I think there's many organizations, right? When we protest or when we engage with the criminal justice system, we do it legally, but there's also other avenues that need to push back at the clamping down on protesting, or the clamping down of women actually protesting and saying these are our rights and we want them to be taken care of and to be listened, we want to be heard. And legally that does not give us the avenue to be able to do that. So I think we have different strategies that actually address the issue of sexual violence and how it is taken care of in the country. And legally is one of them, but also what happened on Saturday is another way for South Africa to sit down and listen and hear women's voices.
Now, it is Women's Month, of course, as you ladies know, and we know across the country. We've been punting this on eNCA. Do you think South Africa's justice system and government has failed women when it comes to rape and addressing it?
Yes. And I mean, just to also respond to your previous question, I think what drives us is the resistance of women, is our feminist ancestors, our foremothers, who knew that organizing should not only happen in one avenue, who knew that we need to be creative, we need to push, we need to be inappropriate, we need to make our point in whichever way feels good and true to us. So there's no right place to talk about rape and sexual violence, because there's never a right time to rape or sexually violate someone. So we use this Women's Month to celebrate resistance, to say that this is not what feminists, black women, black feminists have been fighting for, and we want better and we expect better, and we will continue to resist in whichever way that we want, and we will celebrate the 4 women who did this for us over the weekend, and many other women who continue to resist in multiple ways.
Just lastly, we have a minute left or so. Tell me, since you were formed in 2006, because it's been all gloomy, most of what you said has been rather gloomy about how we address this issue. Since you were formed in 2006, have you seen any improvements in how we are addressing this issue?
I wouldn't say I've seen much improvement. I think the improvement that I've seen is in more women actually coming out and more women fighting and pushing back on the injustices. In terms of systems, whether they've changed or whether they work in our favor, I still would say no, they haven't. And which is why I think more and more organizations continue to exist, because if everything was all dandy, we wouldn't exist. And that's what we actually hope for and what we look forward to, is a world where we don't exist and we don't have to do this work.
Kwezi?
I agree with Mpumi. I mean, I think that in the last 10 years, what has been amazing is an upsurge of how feminist activism happens in this country and universally. I think that the methods of resistance, the fact that more and more women are identifying as feminists, are doing feminist work, more and more we are pushing back against patriarchal systems of violence, more and more our movements are consolidating, is a definite win for me, because it means that there's a home that can hold our comrades like the 4 sisters to be brave enough to do this work.
All right, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate the great work you're doing, and I can only wish you a happy Women's Month.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Kwezi Mbandazayo and Mpumi Mathabela, members of the 1 in 9 campaign.